You are listening to Sweatpants and Suits. Today's guest is Christopher G. Smith, a Broadway featured producer bringing stories to life on one of the world's biggest stages. He shares what it takes to succeed in a high-stakes industry, from building relationships to taking risks on big ideas. Christopher, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today, sir. Tell us about your background and how your story unfolds.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I was actually a police officer in suburban Philadelphia, and was going along. I was working at my church, working with young people, doing the police officer thing. And then one day I was going through a library, a children's library, and I just sort of reached out and grabbed a book off the shelf, didn't even really look at it. And this book caught my passion so much that I said, this needs to be a Broadway show. The book, by the way, was about a guy named John Newton, who was a slave trader in the 1740s. It's a true story. And he nearly died at sea. He turned his back on the slave trade, and then he became one of the first abolitionists. And he became a pastor, and he actually wrote the song Amazing Grace. A lot of people don't realize that's what Amazing Grace is about. It's about his transformation. So I go home to my wife and I said, honey, this is a Broadway show. Now, I did high school theater. I did one semester in college. I did theater. And then I told her how I saw it, and I could hear it. I could see it. I was like, no, it's big. It's like this. It's like Les Mis. It's got, battles and, storms, and, they're yelling at each other, and he's in love with her and she's in love with him, but he's a slave trader. And I'm going through this whole thing. And she says, well, that's great. Do it. I said, honey, how am I ever going to write a Broadway show? I've never been paid to write anything but accident reports. And I said, it's impossible. And she said, wait a minute, aren't you the one that tells the young people that they shouldn't put themselves in a box and nothing's impossible? And I said, well, yeah, I do say that. And she said, the words that changed my life. So prove it. And I spent the next 19 years of leaving police work behind and becoming a Broadway composer, lyricist, and librettist, which is the person that writes the story, for Amazing Grace. And in 2015, we premiered on Broadway.
Wow, that is a giant leap of faith. And after speaking to so many different professionals, what's something people consistently misunderstand about choosing a career?
Well, there's different ways of looking at it. Obviously, if you have a family, you have to support your family. If not, you have to support yourself. There's certain realities that happen in life. For the first 10 years of writing the show, I kept my jobs so that I could, work on it, become a writer. And then for the last 7 years, I went out and got investors. By the time 2007 rolled around, it was the beginning of the economic downturn. I said to Alana, I've got this story. I had music, I had lyrics, I had libretto. I had people who, wanted to support us. And I said, but if I take this to Broadway, they're going to take it and they're going to ruin it. I just knew they'd never done anything like this. It was a very different kind of story. So I reasoned, what is it that Broadway producers hate right now? And it was the economic downturn. And I said, you know what? I'll bet they hate raising money right now. So I started going to neighbors and friends, and a gentleman introduced me to a gentleman downtown. I'm in backyards. I'm in, law offices and all these different places, telling them a story, singing them the songs, and asking for money. And we raised $500,000 in 6 months just doing that. Just in that one little area north of Philadelphia.
Wow. Backyard networking from 500K to 22 million. Holy cow.
Now,
And
the
what
people
is
that got us, the person that got us to 22 million, he was close. He was within 30 minutes of my house. But, we had people that gave, $500. We had people that gave 10,000, all different. All these people wanted to be involved in it because it was such a unique production. And they really believed in it. I didn't always believe in it. I went through severe doubts sometimes. But in the end, it was them and my wife Alana that actually got me across the finish line.
What was your sales pitch going from door to door, meeting all these crazy rich people?
Oh, that was
What was
so
your
funny.
technique?
And some of them weren't rich. We would sit down and like we were in a bank president's office. And I'm not asking for the bank's money. I'm asking for his personal money. So, the walls don't go all the way up to the roof. So the little ladies out in the bank president's, admin, they can hear this. And I'm going, and I never can repay. And the little old ladies must have been like, what is going on in there? So I told them the whole story. And one of the things about Amazing Grace that really moves people is part of it is about a father who chose success over a relationship with his son. And there's a song that the father sings called, it is called A Chance for Me. And it says, is there a chance for me for one who can finally see that there must be more than prosperity? And if the person I was talking to teared up, they always invested. And if they didn't tear up, they never invested. It was really an emotional decision. When you're trying to sell something that is so unusual, none of these people had invested in entertainment ever, but you have to touch their hearts. You have to bring people to the point where their emotions override the fact that, you're a stranger or you're a kid or you're what. I wasn't a kid. I was actually in my 40s, but people misunderstand how much emotion plays in trying to get other people to give you a different job, to believe that you can do something that you've never done before, change skill sets. It's hard for you to believe. But for them, you really have to tell them your passion. Why? Why are you doing this? Why are you hanging up the sweatpants and trying something impossible? And that word impossible is going to haunt you. It'll come to get you. So what I've done, impossible always comes with an exclamation point. It's always like, impossible. It's like a judgment from on high. So my technique, what I do is I basically take that exclamation point and I twist it around like a blacksmith and I turn it into a question mark so that it's no longer impossible. It's impossible. And once you engage your curiosity, once impossible becomes a question and a challenge, now you've got somewhere to go. Before you were looking at a brick wall, now you're looking at an open door.
Since we're on the topic of passion right now, right? Do you think
Mm-hmm.
passion is something that people should follow or something they develop over time?
Well, look, the real fact of it is I prayed about this, because it was such a big life decision. I talked to Alana. Like I say, there were times when I really doubted. Alana, my wife, is the only person who always believed. She was the one who thought I could do it even when I didn't. So you do have to go to other people and you do have to ask what they think. I didn't assume that I could write a song or that I could write a great scene. I did it and then I took it to people. And if they were emotionally connected, if I could arouse their passion, then I knew I was onto something. Then I knew it was real. We had one person on our production team who used to say, if you can make them cry, you can make them buy. It's so cynical, but in a way it's true. If you can't arouse the passion in other people, maybe it is just something that's a hobby, and that's fine too.
And for someone in their late 20s or 20s, right, feeling lost or behind, what perspective would your career advice give to them?
Perspective is the key word, just what you said. It is so easy to get locked into a viewpoint, especially, like you go to college, you spend 4 years, you get trained for a certain thing, and then it's very hard to see yourself differently because, you've invested so much, you've got this sunk cost into who you are, and your identity has a sunk cost too. Your brain doesn't want you to just go changing what you do willy-nilly. You can't chase everything. You'd never You never succeed at anything. And that impossible word, or never, or, why you, or are you kidding? All of those things are a way your brain is testing you. How bad do you want it? Do you want it bad enough to lose some sleep? To take an economic hit? To have your friends look at you strange? And that's the question. And as you wrestle through those things, that's when you find. But there is no answer to should you follow your passion or should you be practical. That's it. I have done both, but like I say, I talked to the people that were stakeholders, and I talked to God, who's the biggest stakeholder.
And looking at it from this point where you are sitting right now at, right?
Yep.
And you were to given the chance to go back to your previous self, right? The one that was questioning about whether this play would come into vision, right?
Yeah.
You were to write a guide to them, right? What would your guide include, and how would you tell them how to break into Broadway acting?
Gosh, I don't know what I would say. I That's a tough one. I think about that. What if I went back in time? What would I do? And I would be terrified because it was such a specific thing. And it was waiting for connections and small things that led to other things. And of course, the product had to be good. I mean, the product had to be great. I mean, we had a 96% positivity rating on Broadway. Same as Hamilton. And we opened in the same month as Hamilton, so you can kind of understand what we were up against commercially. But yeah, it's tough. I would tell myself to do it, but I would not tell myself how, because I wouldn't want to mess it up. If I went back with the knowledge I had, I'd try and make it happen faster or different or more or this, and it would just totally ruin it. You have a journey in front of you, and you have to discover that. And I wish there was a magic solution. The only solution I can give is engage your curiosity, engage passion, and your creativity. That's your superpower. In an age of AI and constant change, that's the one power that you have right now. You're a human being, and you have that creativity. And you have that curiosity. This is how humanity got where we are, why we're the top of the food chain. We're not the fastest. We're not the strongest. We don't have the sharpest teeth, but we're pretty clever. And we are very, very persistent. So you have to engage in your own life the thing that got us here in the first place.
Amazing advice. And you've seen project go from idea to the stage. What separates the one that actually make it from the ones that never leave the ground?
Persistence and belief.
Persistence.
At one point, an NBC reporter, we were on 41st Street, and she hit me with a question. I didn't know what to say. She said, how does a small town cop get to be a Broadway playwright? And I said, I couldn't think of anything. So I just said belief.
Belief.
That's pretty good analysis of what it is. You have to believe enough to get through the difficult times. I talk to a lot of young actors and people that want to go into the arts. I always tell them to get a practical skill that they can use during economic downturns. I say that to college kids who are, fantastic, really do, top level artistic work, tell them the same exact thing. You have to be able to navigate the ups and downs of any business. So whatever skill you can develop, I advocate that too. And I also, if you can pursue your dream and stay economically viable with what you're doing, do it. Don't quit your job because of passion. Think it through. Talk to the people around you. Go to someone you trust, someone older. Pray about it. Don't just, let your passion carry you into something you can never.
And Broadway is known for high stakes and high pressure. How do you deal with stress when everything's on the line?
Oh, well, I was diagnosed with chronic anxiety when I was 7 years old. So I have been spending a whole lifetime developing techniques that I use to help me get through those moments. I'm writing them down, and it should be up by the time this interview is there. But on ChristopherGSmith.com, Christopher G, you have to remember the G, because if you don't, then you get that other Christopher Smith, and who knows what he's doing. And if you go there, you'll see a question mark. You hit the question mark, and that will take you to all the things I write about. And we're going to have a field guide. We're going to have like an impossible field guide so that you can understand some of the techniques that I do. And it'll be free.
And it'll be free. I'll make sure to link ChristopherGSmith.com in the podcast description. The audience will find it over there. And if you had to start over today with no connections, what would your first 3 moves be?
Okay, let's see. I get the idea. I come home. I talk to Alana. The first thing I would do is actually what I did do, which was write the first song. I'd start letting the passion that was in me for the project get out, because there's a snowball effect here. As you start, it carries you forward. And then the second thing I did, which I did then and I would do now, is share it with other people and see what they say. Do they cry? Do they laugh? And as we get, further down the road, you're going to have to ask for money. Money is a concern. It's just the way it is, no matter what you do. So you have to plan for that. And even now, as I do what I do, my wife works, so that I can be on here with you and do these things. And I do speeches. I go all around the country speaking, helping, being a strategic advisor. And I think that's what I would do then too. I think I would be useful. Best thing you can do for yourself is be professionally useful and develop your skills. And look, those first 10 years were me developing a skill. 3 skills, actually: music, lyrics, and libretto. And even at the end of the 10 years, I wasn't done. I still had 7 to go. So that's my answer.
And I would say your personal story is Broadway worthy to tell your personal story, right? You went from a humble pop to
I appreciate it.
Up here, up at the tippity top of the cinema world, right? That is very impressive. And let's keep this question short. What matters more, talent, relationship, or timing?
Talent, relationship, or timing? Timing. I hate to say that, because talent is such a big focus for me, and it's something you can control, right? You can build your talent. You can't build time. But in the end, it's timing. Sorry.
Timing. And how can the audience reach out to you, Christopher?
Well, just go to ChristopherGSmith.com, ChristopherGSmith.com, and hit the question mark button, and you will be able to always see what we're working on. Amazing Grace is coming back in 2027 as an audio version, so you're going to want to know about that. Worldwide, we're going to do translations to other languages, and it's really exciting. Broadway was really expensive, and this will be much more reasonable, and everyone will be able to enjoy it.
I'm excited for Amazing Grace. I personally would listen to it. And thank you so much, Christopher. You have been an absolutely amazing guest. Amazing Grace.
Thank you.
What should I say? Amazing Grace, amazing guest. Thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely. It's great meeting you, and the best to all your audience.
Be sure to follow Sweatpants to Suits on your favorite streaming platforms so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep growing into the person you're meant to become.